Thanks for joining us on this new demonstration of the 8100 series locator by Radiodetection. The 8100 series is the latest addition to take the place of the 8000 series, and there's a lot of new tools, new cool tools on this 8100 series. The 8100 most importantly does GPS mapping. So now we have a internal GPS unit in this receiver. We have seen it on their MRX marker ball locator. Now they have it on the 8100 series. And the 8100 series will also log in the background over 500 days worth of locate information, and so if there was a damage, you can go back and investigate to see what the locator used for a frequency, where he located, roughly how deep it was, and such. And you can view that easily enough on a Google Earth map. And so the 8100 series has some additional features too, which we'll look at here, but those are some really neat ones. I mean, they add some more antennas on the unit, which do help give you more antenna options, which we'll go over here in a second, but they've also still continued the 3-year warranty, and they've added some extra memory and processing power to this unit. And so the antennas are much tighter. They give you a much better precision on your locates, and they do a much better job filtering out the other stuff that's around you using the dynamic overload protection software built into the unit. That means when you're possibly underneath some power lines causing some 60 Hertz interference, or there's other interfering frequencies, it will automatically filter it out. There is no need to do anything else. You'll just be able to keep on locating where other locators would fail. This one does a much better job in those noisy environments. They've added the 4 kilohertz current direction frequency, which helps in cables and pipes when they're very resistant. Maybe you're trying to use current direction with a cast iron water pipe, or a bare steel gas line, or just on a telephone line or something that has some damage to it, or not connected to the other end. Those higher frequencies are very useful for those high resistance circumstances, and the 4 kilohertz current direction now can be used on those, whereas before all the current direction frequencies were much lower. They're under 500 Hertz, and so they did not want to travel against those dead ends or those resistant areas. And so that will be a great addition, along with the extra power filtering and a new guidance and peak mode, what they call peak plus mode on the locator. And we'll go over that in a second. This new locator has a higher IP rating. It's IP65. That means that it's still protected from all dust getting into the unit, but it's also protected more for water damage. It will be capable of possibly going through a car wash without getting water internally into it. It can kind of have jets of water sprayed at different directions, just as long as it's not high pressure jetting, and it will be fine. So working out in the rain and the elements are not a factor for this unit. And the unit also comes possibly with a lithium-ion battery. If you want a lithium-ion battery, that's an extra option, but it will more than double, possibly triple the amount of runtime on this receiver. And they had the lithium-ion on the transmitter. That is still available, but now you can get the lithium with the receiver, and that easily charges through an AC adapter or a DC adapter. And so that, coupled with the lithium-ion on the transmitter, is going to be a great tool. Now, the GPS portion of it. The nice cool thing about the GPS is not only mapping, but the logging portion. The logging portion allows you to understand where you've located, and maybe if you need to have some kind of evidence to show that you've located the line because the contractor took marks away, or they're just not there because it snowed or rained, you have a way to download that information. That information is stored over 500 days worth, and that's if you've worked 8 hours a day, so it might even last longer than that. But you can download that info, and it's not just the location info, it's the info of what frequency you've used, the depth readings, the current measurement reading, and the date timestamp, and so on. And so that's a great training tool, or just a tool to be able to prove that you've done the locate correctly. Now, they also have online certification, so if you need to check the calibration of the unit, you can do that through the RD Manager software. The RD Manager software is also what's used to download the usage logging and the GPS readings, but the unit itself has a self-test mode. That is something we saw in the RD400 in the 4000 series, and then on the 8000 series it was not on there. So now they've put the self-test back onto the unit. That doesn't take the place of the calibration checking, the eCert or the CalSafe calibration checking, but it does allow it to be able to give you some kind of confirmation that the unit's electronics are possibly working just fine. So the CalSafe is a schedule that can be submitted into the unit by maybe a supervisor if they want to set a schedule of maybe once a year to have the unit come in for calibration. That means once that year is up, the unit will be inoperable. They won't be able to use it until it has been checked out for calibration. And there is a new ring clamp. They offer a 5-inch ring clamp with the RD8000s, 8100s, and 7000 transmitters. And so this 5-inch ring clamp is much needed because the 4-inch ring clamp will not fit around a 4-inch pipe, but now the 5-inch will. So they have that in between the 8.5-inch, which is their largest, and the 4-inch ring clamp. And they, of course, still offer the 2-inch ring clamp and the current direction ring clamp. So there's been some additional antenna modes because there's additional antennas. They still have the peak response, they still have the peak and null combined mode and the broad peak mode, but and the null mode, but they've added guidance mode and peak plus mode. So the peak and null combined mode is one option, but if they want, you can use the guidance mode arrows with the peak mode, and what that does is basically give you a much tighter, faster response and much more accurate than using the peak and null combined. So this unit will also give you simultaneous current measurement and a depth reading. You can see it on the bottom of the screen there, and so there's no more selecting either one or the other. You get both. Now the additional antennas that are inside this unit allow you to get the additional responses, but the peak mode uses the top and the bottom horizontal antennas. This is still one of the best, strongest ways to locate, and gives you really good precision and good depth readings. But for those that like arrows, you do not have arrows on this peak mode, but you will have it on the peak plus mode. So the peak plus allows the guidance arrows to come on and give you kind of an idea of how far away you are. They'll get smaller as you get closer to the utility line, and once you're over it, you should get 2 arrows and your strongest peak response. That gives you 2 horizontal and 2 vertical antennas and the compass all working together, all 5 antennas working together, and then you'll get your depth reading and your current measurement reading automatically once you're over that line as well. And so that it gives you a lot of confirmations that you got a good locate. The null mode uses the vertical antenna, and so now we have a peak with the null antennas, and we've had this on the regular 8000 and it's on the RD7000, but adding that extra vertical antenna to give you a guidance mode arrows gives you much more precision. Now the guidance mode can be used by itself, and it kind of gives you a shadow effect up on the top scale. There's a line that's drawn and it kind of emulates the cable or the pipe, and once you get that at the center of the screen, that should mean you're directly over the line, and it is a very accurate way to locate. It is using all those antennas as well, and for those that maybe are new to the machine, this is a great way to get used to it, because if you can follow arrows, you can pretty much locate using this mode. The broad peak mode is just using the antenna on the very bottom of the receiver. The broad peak horizontal antenna allows you to maybe locate stuff that's deeper, or if you have atmospheric interference, it might get rid of some of that. It might clear things up. Or if you're trying to spot a line in a handhole or a pit on the pipe or something, maybe possibly almost exposed, and you need to try to find it in the wall. The single antenna might be needed sometimes, and so it does allow you to use that as well. And then you have the null mode, the classic null mode with the single vertical antenna with the left-right guidance arrows. There is no depth reading or current measurement in this mode, and so they do that mainly on purpose, so you use one of the other modes to give you a better, much more clear, precise locate. So there is an enhanced power mode on this new locator. You still have the basic power mode that will pick up all the harmonics from 60 Hz up to 960 Hz. Anything that's divisible by 60, it's going to pick up. The only bad thing about that is when you get in an area that's very congested around a transformer or a switchgear or a substation, you might need to filter out some of that information in order to get good depth readings and a better locate, a much more precise locate. So what the enhanced power mode does is kind of clear that up. It allows you to go through each one of those spectrums, each one of those frequencies, and determine which one is the better power mode, which one is it actually seeing. And so instead of getting a lot of garbage on multiple lines, you're picking up only one signal and being able to wash out or filter out some of that excess. And so I've used this on a transformer and some switchgear, where you're locating real in close proximity of the cabinet, and it works beautifully. It's a much cleaner power mode and allows a lot more manual control, especially on areas where you might have multiple power lines buried in the same ditch. This will really clear it up, and you'll power industry will love this mode. So the usage logging. Usage logging is basically taking advantage of that GPS coordinate, and it's also logging all the other information, the frequency that's being used, the current measurement, the depth reading, and so on, and the date and time. So it gives you a proof of the work. It gives you evidence that somebody's been there and a work has been done, a locate has been done in a rough area where it's been done at. And so you can kind of get an idea of the speed that the locator's running at, how fast they're going, how accurate they are, the date and the time that they've been there, and what their habits are, what frequency do they use the most. And so that's going to be a very important feature, especially if you're in the training industry and trying to get new locators on board. So you can choose the different filters. When you export this in a Google Earth map, you are recording over 500 days worth of data, but you can choose what days, you can choose what fields you want to show up by just clicking or unclicking the certain parameters. As you can see, this looks a little bit messy. The log mode does log everywhere that you walk, so it's taking a reading every second that you have that unit on. And so if you're getting your machine out of the truck and turning it on immediately and walking over to your locate and then maybe walking around trees and other obstacles as you locate, it's logging that as well. Basically, the data logging portion of this unit is just to prove that you've been there and you were in this area and you've done some locating and what you used for locating frequency and such. It's not the mapping portion of this. The mapping portion is in addition to the log portion. So let's cover the Bluetooth, iLoc, and the GPS portion of this, the mapping GPS portion of it. So the Bluetooth portion has been much improved. They have a new type of Bluetooth and antenna on this unit, which controls the iLoc feature and also Bluetooth communications to a PC or to a phone. And so it allows it to control the transmitter from the receiver. Now you can get over well over 1,000 feet with this one. On the older one they said that you couldn't quite possibly get 500 feet. On this new one we have got over 1,500 feet, and that was not line of sight. And so it's much better iLoc feature on this new one, which allows you to change frequencies and bump the power up and down on the transmitter remotely from the receiver. It's a great Bluetooth antenna. So that's what they call the iLoc. So you can also do sidestep with the iLoc. That means you can change your frequencies just enough if somebody else is out there using the same frequency as you are, maybe 8 kilohertz, and you want to step it up just a little bit so you don't interfere with each other. You can do that through the iLoc Bluetooth feature as well. But it will go way beyond 1,000 feet, over 1,500 feet. I have successfully done it over 1,500 feet with no problem. So the new GPS on this unit allows for about a meter's worth of accuracy. They say the accuracy on it is around 3 meters, but you do get a much more accuracy on that once you have the SBAS enabled on the unit, and once you allow all the antennas or all the satellites to be locked on at the same time. And so this unit can log over 1,000 readings. It can map over 1,000 readings. So as you're locating, you simply push the Survey Cert button, and it will log the position and the depth of the line and the frequency and everything else, just like the log mode does. But on this one, you do tell it when you want to take a reading, so you can better map where the utility goes once you get in the right position. So there is an icon on the right side of the screen that shows you how good of a GPS signal you have. The bars going vertically, the 3 bars going up, basically is telling you how many satellites it has acquired or it sees, and the ones going to the right is how many it sees. So once you have all 4 bars to the right locked in and the 3 bars going up, that means you have 12 or more satellites in view and they're locked on and you're getting the most accurate readings. If you have that, then your precision is probably within a meter, and it is very, very good. We have used it many times, done many demos with it, and it is a very precise machine. Of course, just like any GPS, it gets worse if you're under foliage or you're near tall buildings, but if you're getting good GPS signal, you're going to get good results. The unit with the Bluetooth also allows you to use an external GPS unit if you want more accuracy, something that's maybe under a foot accurate. You can send that information to it using the Bluetooth connection, and it sends it out as a text or PPP format or ASCII format. So the self-test and the eCert are new. Well, the self-test is certainly new on this unit. So the self-test gives you a pass or a fail upon completion, and it's mainly testing the integrity of the circuitry. It does not test for the calibration, for the accuracy of the depth and the locate. So it's just mainly telling you that everything in there is working and the circuits are in good shape. To go a step further, you would want to do the eCert, the self-certification, where you can plug the unit in using the RD Manager software, and it will give you a calibration certificate letting you know the results, and if it is a pass or a fail. If it does pass, it proves it and gives you some kind of documentation. This documentation will stay on file in the RD Manager for you to print off anytime you would like in the future. You can also install the CalSafe countdown. That allows you to have it come back in for service and recertification for calibration after that countdown is up. That can either be turned on or off. So you have the self-test that the unit can do manually, that every locator can do out in the field, and then you have the enhanced self-test, which is on the 8100 series. The self-test on the 8100 series looks at the locator integrity, whereas the other self-tests and the prior versions like the RD400 and the 4000 was mainly just checking to make sure the screen was working. And then you can take it a step further on these 8100. You can do the eCert, which gives you approved certification, a certification certificate. But in order to basically do repairs and physical checks and functionality testing, it all needs to be sent back to Radiodetection for that. So the new frequencies, 4 kilohertz and 4 kilohertz CD. These allow you to have a frequency in between that 1 kilohertz and 8 kilohertz range, but it also gives you a much higher current direction frequency, which is going to be very nice to have. And so the current direction can now be used on stuff with much more higher resistant lines, and so I can see this being a frequency that's going to be used quite a bit, since you do have a current direction arrow. It's like using 8 kilohertz with a current direction arrow now. The current direction arrow represents the direction that your locate signal is going. So if you get an arrow flipping going the opposite direction, you know you're picking up return current going back to the transmitter, and that's probably not the target line you're looking for. This new unit also has CD fault find. So you have 8 kilohertz fault find, but you can use also the current direction lower frequencies for fault finding. If you're looking for more minute faults or possibly you're having a hard time getting 8 kilohertz to work, it gives you another option to use CD mode for fault locating. That's another picture of the 5-inch ring clamp, and works just as well as the 4-inch ring clamp in their testing. And then the lithium-ion battery pack can be ordered in addition to the unit. So you get the alkaline 2 D-cell alkaline batteries with the receiver, and then this will take the place of that. And you can swap them back and forth if you need to. If your battery is dead and you need to charge it, you can go back to use the alkalines temporarily. And there's a picture of the transmitter lithium-ion, which has been available with the 8000 series. Same transmitter, same transmitter battery. The only difference on the 8100 series transmitters is the Bluetooth iLoc feature is much better. So that is the 8100 series range, and they sell this in the PTL model, the PDL, and the PXL. Now the PXL model does not do any fault locating, and it does not have current direction. It is the least expensive model, but it's not that much less expensive than the PDL version, which will do fault locating. And so if you want to do fault locating, you definitely would want the PDL or the PTL model. And so you can see with the PTL, you get some additional frequencies, though. You get some additional current direction frequencies, and you can also incorporate 5 custom frequencies with the PTL model. So if you're a long line management system, if you have fiber networks and you have specific frequencies you need to pick up, the PTL model is the better one of the two. So, but the PDL and the PTL will both do fault locate. So the PTL gives you those 5 extra frequencies over the PDL. Up to 22 frequencies on the PTL model, and then the PTL can be either ordered with or without GPS, along with the PDL and the PXL can be ordered with or without GPS. As you can see, the CalSafe and the usage logging only, of course, comes with the GPS, and so you need to order the G model in order to get those. Transmitters are the same, 1 watt, 5 watt, or 10 watt, and then you either order them with the Bluetooth iLoc feature or without. So that is the demonstration of the new 8100 series locator. Please, if you have additional questions, give us a call, and if you want to schedule a live demonstration, email us or give us a holler. Thank you.